Welcome everybody to the League Winners Fantasy Podcast. It's our first ever episode. I'm Dalton. This is
I'm
my
AJ.
co-host AJ. Today we're going to be discussing the AFC South. We would start with the AFC North, however, situation in Cleveland makes that a little difficult for now.
There's just a little situation with about 26, 7
People?
people involved in a very high tense situation that I definitely agree with.
So we're gonna find out eventually what happens there. But currently, obviously, it's really hard to project the Browns not knowing who their quarterback is. So we'll start with the AFC South. We'd usually start off the show with some news. However, pretty much as nothing's happening in the football world, Zach Wilson's put the whole league on pause, trying to figure out what he's done. We'll get into that in our next AFC East breakdown. But
And now with Zach Wilson, I 100% agree with what he did. I feel that what he did was 100% honest with himself, and he is now my favorite quarterback. So
yeah, take his rankings with a grain of salt.
yes.
But even though we don't have any news to discussing, we can jump right into our AFC South rankings. Yeah, start with the Indianapolis Colts. Coming off a quarterback change last year, rocking with Carson Wentz. This year made a change to Matt Ryan. I think it'll only help the Colts as a team. Carson Wentz is not great at football. There's a reason he's been on 3 teams in the past 3 years. Colts are going into their third new quarterback over the past 3 years. They had Phillip Rivers, then Carson Wentz, and now Matt Ryan. And I think this is a great home for Matt Ryan. I don't know how you feel about him, though.
I think Matt Ryan is a mid-tier quarterback. I feel like if he can get over his issues, including his inability to throw the football,
Okay.
I feel like he will be a very good QB that could take him to the playoffs.
He will be a great in-game QB, but in
Yes.
fantasy, obviously not something.
In fantasy, he is not the best quarterback to take. If you're going to take him, I'm going to say take him as your backup.
He is. I have him ranked as the QB 24, which would be my last quarterback drafted. I'm not high on him, but obviously, if you're a Colts fan or you like Michael Pittman this year, a little stack with Michael Pittman and Matt Ryan is very achievable.
I have him ranked 20, just a little bit
Yep.
higher than you.
He's currently being drafted as the QB 19 in the 12th round, which feels a little rich, but if he's falling in one of your drafts, there's no reason to not.
If he's fallen in the draft and you really think that he's going to do good this year and you really want a good backup QB, I would say take him.
The only thing that has me hesitant on him is his lack of running, which is always important in fantasy. So while
See,
you know
there's
he's
only
throwing-
2 people slower than him in this sport, and one of them is Tom Brady, and the other one is Tom Brady.
So yeah, I mean that's the only downside to him. And obviously, you're talking about the Colts. You're going to talk about Jonathan Taylor. I think he's the best running back in football. I don't think there's any way you can argue with that.
There's no argument. There is zero argument to this statement. Jonathan Taylor is the number 1 running back. I almost said QB because he does play both positions if you take into account how good he is.
He does, and if you look at it, if you're at the top of your draft, first overall pick, is there any way you don't take Jonathan Taylor?
No, I'm taking Jonathan Taylor first overall.
PPR standard, it doesn't matter. Jonathan Taylor is the best player in football, and he should be treated as such. I just want to also put this out here. Our rankings are done in a PPR format, so if anyone's playing in a standard league, the wide receivers will just be ranked a little bit lower. And we'll obviously talk about pass catching ability, which Jonathan Taylor does have.
And now I also want to talk about his backup, Hines. I do not know how to say it. Nyheim Hines. Yes. So I think he's good. I think that if Jonathan Taylor gets hurt, will get you a lot of points because they're going to abuse him a lot.
Yep.
So I feel like he's a very good running back 3 or just your overall backup running back.
He's actually a bit. I'm also high on Nyheim Hines this year as a sleeper pick. He's going currently in the back of the 9th round, and I think he could go a little bit. You should take him if you're in the 9th, sitting there. He has a lot of pass catching upside.
Yes.
That's why I like to use him. He's coming off an injury 2 years ago. Last year they had Marlon Mack. He's now on the Texans. So I think there's an opening for Nyheim Hines. Even if Jonathan Taylor's healthy, it's just you have a bye week, you can just put somebody in your flex spot. Somebody who can play and not feel terrible about. Obviously, you wouldn't like him to be your RB2, but again, if Taylor goes down,
he is definitely going to be your RB2.
And Michael Pittman, when we move to wide receivers, he has had some good seasons lately. Finished, I think, as a top 20 wide receiver last year with Carson Wentz. There's no reason he shouldn't repeat that this year. I think he goes over 1,000 yards this year with the Colts, with Matt Ryan as his quarterback. Matt Ryan has supported a wide receiver 1. He supported Julio Jones. He supported Calvin Ridley. There's no reason to think he won't be able to support Michael Pittman. The only problem is Julio didn't score very much, and Michael Pittman does have a touchdown issue.
Yes.
I don't think that's as big an issue. He's not going to score a lot in the red zone. Those touchdowns are going to go to Jonathan Taylor. But even on those deep balls, I've had Michael Pittman a lot this year. I have him as my wide receiver 14.
I have him as my wide receiver 13. I 100% would agree with that statement. And when looking at his draft predictions, he is projected 35th, and then his ADP is 50th. So I think he's drafted maybe a little bit high, but if you are really stoked about him, I would say take him.
That fourth, I think I have him at the 403 currently, and if you're sitting there in the 4th round and he's your first wide receiver, you've gone Travis Kelce and some running backs, or you drafted a couple running backs early.
Yep.
He's the guy that has high upside to plug into that wide receiver 1 spot and have a chance to be a top 12 wide receiver. I can definitely see that in his upside.
Yep. And then there is another backup here, Paris Campbell.
Paris
Don't
Campbell.
know a lot about him, but I have high upside for him. Just knowing that Matt Ryan likes to throw the ball around a lot to a lot of different guys. So getting another wide receiver in there that could be your wide receiver 3, it's very good for him. So I think there could be upside, but it's hesitant.
I'm a little bit lower on Paris Campbell for the simple reason is they drafted the rookie Alec Pierce this year.
Yes.
Took him in the 2nd or 3rd round this year. They've had Paris Campbell for a couple years and he just hasn't been able to break out yet.
Yeah.
I personally am more on the Alec Pierce breakout this year. Obviously not like breakout. I have him as my wide receiver 66, late 15th, 14th, 15th round pick if you want to grab a flyer on a rookie. Like to have a rookie on your team sometimes. But Paris Campbell, I don't see him being able to finally get over the hump. He's been struggling for a couple years now. I don't know if he can do it, but I'm a little bit higher on Alec Pierce.
See, I have both of them ranked about the same. I have Paris Campbell 84th and Alec Pierce 91st.
Okay.
Because it's kind of just, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how Matt Ryan is going to run that offense.
That's true.
They are probably going to go more run-heavy offense.
Absolutely.
So it's really low. I would say just take Pittman. I would not see myself taking the other 2 Indianapolis.
There's not really a reason to. Once again, the only reason I would draft Pierce is if you wanted a rookie on your team just for the upside. Or in a dynasty league, Pierce is a great grab.
Dynasty league, I am definitely.
I'm in on Pierce. I've made a couple of trades for him in some dynasty leagues, but Pittman is really the only weapon just because of that run first offense. And then Mo Alley Cox, a tight end. He's not a fantasy player. He'll just take some red zone touchdowns away from the receivers and just kind of be that thorn in your side where you're like, oh, I wish Taylor would run that one in, or I wish Pittman would have caught that. But he's not worth a draft. Tight end 30 out of 32 teams. There's no reason to draft Mo Alley Cox.
I have Mo Alley Cox ranked 34th out of 34th.
Yeah.
So he is not a fantasy player.
Yeah, no, he's just going to be that thorn in your side all season long. I personally, as a team, like the Colts this year.
I like the Colts.
Well.
I think they will be a first-round exit.
In the playoffs?
Yes.
Because of Matt Ryan, of course.
Yes.
But
yes.
I have high upside for the Colts this year. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor staying healthy would be a catalyst to that in the run-heaviest division in the NFL because there's also the Titans. But I think if Taylor stays healthy, they could make a run in the playoffs this year.
And I would like to add on, Mr. Salings did not do his kickers, so I will be doing the kickers.
These are kicker experts.
At ranked 11, I have Rodrigo Blankenship. No introduction needed.
No.
He is a very good kicker, and he will kick the ball far.
Even as AJ here explains the kickers, I think both of our draft strategies is don't draft a kicker in defense before the last 2 rounds.
Mr. Irrelevant will be a kicker.
Yes, there's no reason to draft your kickers and defenses early. I think that anyone that's played fantasy football knows they're not the difference makers. You can pick up a different kicker every week and still win your championship. Same thing with your defense.
And with their defense, I have them ranked 4th.
I think they have a good defense.
I think they
just
have a
team-wide.
very good defense. I think the team-wide, it's just a new year. It's going to be a couple of years before they start ranking up. It's just all the teams overall this year are ranking up, so it's going to be very hard to get a very good oil team.
Yep. Moving on to the division winners from last year, the Tennessee Titans. If you remember correctly, they were the 1 seed in the playoffs last year. Derrick Henry injury slowed it down a lot. He is their offense, if we're being real with each other. And
yes.
This is the only team where I didn't stat out more than 1 running back for the sole reason of it's Derrick
That
Henry's
is the
show.
exact reason I have 1 running back for the Tennessee
It's the
Titans.
Derrick Henry show. I mean, we'll talk about Ryan Tannehill. I have him ranked slightly above Matt Ryan just for the fact that he can run a little bit, maybe pick up a couple rushing touchdowns. But it's the Derrick Henry show. I have him as my RB5 this year just because of the injury risk. I think he's going to run like crazy. He's not a bunch of receiving back as Taylor is, and Tannehill likes to try and throw deep sometimes. He likes to try and throw deep sometimes, so I have him ranked a little bit lower. But what are your thoughts on Tannehill?
I have that exact reason with Derrick Henry. I have him ranked 6 because there is a very, very, very high percentage chance that he will get injured this season.
Yep.
But once he gets injured, they're going to lose every single game by at least 35. So, yeah. And talking about the Tennessee Titans QBs. So first of all, let's talk about Ryan Tannehill, Mr. 4 picks a game. So let's just say you're on the sideline. Malik Willis is on the sideline, right? Ryan Tannehill throws his 5th interception of the game. Malik Willis is going to come in and do even worse. I do not like Malik Willis at all. I just do not believe his upside with this offense is going to be good for him.
I don't think he plays this year. I don't
I think he gets a couple of snaps.
For the sole, I don't think he'll play because I think the Titans will be in the playoff picture. If Henry gets hurt and they're not in the playoff picture, who else will get in? But I currently think that they'll be like a wild card team, and so I think they'll have to roll with Tannehill. And so I don't think Malik Willis is worth the pick. You might have a couple league mates who think, oh, Malik Willis, he was drafted high. I'm going to draft him late in my draft.
Well, I also say Malik Willis is also going to get a harder chance to develop because Ryan Tannehill does not want to be a mentor.
Yeah, everybody knows that story. Another thing with Derrick Henry is you're drafting him for the upside potential of him not getting injured. Even though I have him as my RB5, I would probably take him if I'm sitting at 4th overall after my top 3 running backs are gone. I have him ranked right below Joe Mixon actually, but I would take Derrick Henry over Joe Mixon.
I have him ranked right above Joe Mixon.
Well, yeah, just because if I look at my running back rankings, if you give me a moment here to check my running back rankings, I have Derrick Henry ranked behind Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, and Austin Eckler, and then Joe Mixon 4th. I'm taking Derrick Henry over Joe Mixon in a draft though, just because some of these players we have them sag out their ceilings, and I think if both players stay healthy, Derrick Henry outperforms Joe Mixon. So you have to look at that when you look at your team. You don't want to draft a whole bunch of injury risk players, but if you're sitting in the first round, you can grab Derrick Henry with the 4th pick. Even in a PPR league, it's hard not to have the king on your team.
Yep. So now looking at their wide receivers,
I know you have some thoughts on Treylon Burks. I know you have some inside information on Treylon Burks. I believe I heard in the pre-show.
Now here's the thing. I have lost that information. My information that I had been previously destroyed by a dog.
So I happen to have the information as well. Treylon Burks suffers from asthma, which is a
yes,
well-known
that was
among multiple NFL players. It's not an uncommon occurrence. The bad news is recently reports came out of camp that he's been held out of team drills and been forced to do solely conditioning and hasn't been able to build up chemistry with Ryan Tannehill this offseason, which scared me a little bit. I actually went in and adjusted my rankings yesterday, just because that scared me a little bit. And I lowered Treylon Burks, I think 2 spots. I had him at the wide receiver 45. I dropped him out to 47. And the only reason he's even that high is because of the question marks with Robert Woods' health. If you remember last year with the Rams, he was injured right after they signed Odell, and
that worked out great for the Rams.
It did, but currently it's looking like he's going to be back week 1, but just not at 100%.
Just a little hesitant.
And so both of those guys kind of scare me a little bit. I am not looking. I have them both. I have Woods ranked at wide receiver 35, 1 spot below where he's being drafted, and I have Burks ranked just a little bit higher than he's being drafted. Because I think if Woods is not 100%, Burks will be the next guy up. And the receiving core there just scares me a little bit. I don't know your thoughts, though.
I have Treylon Burks 43, and I have Robert Woods 44.
You have them ranked a little... Okay, so
I have them ranked together because I think they are technically the same player in that offense. That offense is just Derrick Henry. Once Derrick Henry goes down, they are going to get a lot more passes to them.
That's true.
But the thing is Ryan Tannehill going to make the correct pass?
It's who's going to fill the A.J. Brown role. Because if you remember, A.J. Brown was traded to the Eagles on draft night.
That was probably one of the most exciting trades that I have ever seen.
But it's you don't know who's going to fill his role. If it is Burks, he could have. I mean, Brown put up a 1,000-yard season.
Yep.
I only have him going for 730 yards, but he has the potential. He's a high upside play, but also a very risky floor because if Robert Woods is A.J. Brown, the offense, as seen last year, can't support 2 wide receivers.
I think this year, Tennessee Titans wide receivers, you take them as your backup. You take one or the other. You do not take both.
Yeah, you don't want to get both.
I think you just leave them on your bench and just see what happens throughout.
So I think I know your answer to this based on how you have them ranked. But Robert Woods is going in the 7th round, and Treylon Burks is going in the 11th round. Which one would you rather have at that draft position? I would assume Burks, since he's ranked higher for you anyways.
See, I would say Burks, but just the news coming out about him, I would take Robert Woods, and I think it's Robert Woods is more of a technical veteran.
That's true, but it's costing me 4 rounds. Now let me ask you this: Robert Woods or Gabriel Davis of the Buffalo Bills? They're being drafted right around each other right now. I think that's an interesting one. I have my opinion on that if I were sitting in that spot.
Gabriel Davis, I have Gabriel Davis.
You have Gabriel Davis. I think I'd actually take Robert Woods. I think Gabriel Davis is drafted a little too high. I think that's his ceiling, whereas I think that's Robert Woods' floor. So I think I'd rather have Robert Woods, assuming he's healthy. Here we go. Let's do 2 rookies for you. Treylon Burks or Chris Olave of the Saints? I'll go ahead and answer that. I would rather have...
1 second.
This depends on Michael Thomas.
I have Treylon Burks.
Treylon Burks. Okay, so it depends on if Michael Thomas plays for me. For Chris Olave, Treylon Burks.
I do not believe Michael Thomas is going to play, in my opinion.
If he doesn't play, Chris Olave gets a massive boost.
Yes.
And I would say Chris Olave.
Yes.
If he does play, it's Treylon Burks for me. They also have the Titans. What's his name? Oh yeah, Nick Westbrook. Excuse me if I pronounced that wrong. he's the third receiver. I mean, it would take 2 injuries for him to be relevant, and I don't think that'll happen. Wide receiver 84 for me. He's not worth the draft.
Yeah.
That draft choice. Austin Hooper, signed from Cleveland over here to Tennessee.
Yes.
He could be a red zone threat. Every once in a while, if he has a good matchup, maybe stream him off the waiver wire. Definitely not picking him up in your drafts, but if he's on the waiver wire and he's playing against the Jaguars or the Texans, which he does twice a year, and your tight end's on a bye,
Yes.
he could be worth a waiver wire stream every once in a
I have
while.
him ranked 24th out of 34.
Yeah.
It's again, the offense is only Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
It is just very hard for that offense to get everyone involved, which is why I usually have Tennessee Titans players ranked lower compared to what other.
I have him at tight end 22, and I think, there's just waiver wire stream option and nothing more for Austin Hooper. I'm big on the late tight end draft strategy. That the 14th round's a little too late, I feel like, but Austin Hooper, definitely a late round flyer. I think we'll move on to the Texans now. Quarterback, Davis Mills. I want to get your opinion on some running backs, but first let's talk about Davis Mills.
Davis Mills.
I don't know. I want to hear what you have to say about Davis Mills. I know you're a little bit higher on him than I think I am, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
1 second, just had to figure out how to spell Houston. So, Davis Mills, I have him ranked under Jared Goff and above Mr. Baker Mayfield.
Interesting.
See, I like Davis Mills. He is the next Peckneck Manning. In my opinion, the Houston Texans are the very worst team if you take away the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that does not mean a lot. I think Davis Mills is a very good QB. I think he is just in the wrong team.
I agree with you.
In a very heavy QB league that there is right now, he is going to stay in Houston and he's just going to be...
Well, let's be real. He's not back next year. They're going to end up with a bad record and draft somebody. But I think Davis Mills has the tools to be a great quarterback.
Yes.
And he does have a couple weapons around him. I just don't trust the play calling down in Houston to actually capitalize on this.
Yes.
I think if you are looking at it, he will be a great in-game QB, sort of like a Matt Ryan, where he's a great in-game QB but won't offer much fantasy value. I am just a QB 30, and I can't bring myself to draft him.
I would say waiver wire, definitely.
Yeah, if you have an injury.
If you see him pop off in the first 2 weeks, I would say take him because the Houston Texans will ride on that momentum and keep it going.
Absolutely, yeah. He could be if he ends up playing well, you could pick him up. He's not being drafted currently, and I think that's great. I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about the backfield. They have 3 running backs currently. Who do you have as that taking over the lead role in that backfield?
I only have 2 running backs.
That's fine, yeah.
Out of their 3. I have Damian Pierce ranked 50 and Marlon Mack ranked 55.
So I have Damian Pierce as the highest ranked running back there as well, and this might be my bold prediction here. I have Damian Pierce ranked RB 36.
Wow.
So
that is
allow me to explain myself here.
1 second, my computer is. I am going to see what I have all my stuff on a different thing.
Yeah.
Let me go.
So I'll go ahead and monologue about Damian Pierce here. So I have him as the RB 36, and I think he could be an excellent value. Obviously, as it gets closer to the season, we'll probably discuss these training camp hours again. But currently, if he's able to walk away with this backfield, they are going to feed him the ball. They have to. They want to rely on one running back. They tried it last year. It didn't work. I think they're going to try to rely on Damian Pierce. They spend the draft choice on him. They don't have a deep receiving core, and they have to give it to somebody. And I think it's going to be Damian Pierce. And I think they'll kind of bell cow him because he is the young back. And he has the legs for it. Marlon Mack's coming off the ACL. Rex Burkhead is probably only 32, but he seems like he's 45.
I think he is 45.
Yeah,
I think he's lying.
One of the oldest players in the NFL, at least by looks and how he plays. And he gives his all. He's a guy that is going to give his all for his team. But I just think they're going to try and ride Damian Pierce. I have him going for 830 yards and 5 touchdowns. Also getting some in the air, a couple catches from Davis Mills. I could see him having breakout year, and if you can obviously don't draft him as the RB 36. That's another thing I want to point out here while we're on the topic.
Do not take them at that position. Take what you believe will do the best for your team.
I agree, and even though I have him ranked as RB 36, he's going in the 11th round as the RB 49 currently. Yes. I would rather take someone around that range. If we look at who's being drafted, where my RB 36 should be, that would be a little bit earlier, probably in about the 7th or 8th round.
I would say about the 7th.
So if we look at the 7th, 8th round, players you're going to be getting there, like a Naheem Hines, Ken Walker, a Rashad Bateman for the Ravens. And those are players you'd rather have. Even if you think that there's the potential that Damian Pierce outperforms a Naheem Hines, you'd still rather grab on to a Rashad Bateman in that area as a wide receiver and let him fall to you. Even if we're about to talk about Brandon Cooks, who's a perfect example of this for me. I'm going to let him fall to me and get as much high talent as possible. You have to capitalize on value, because if you're drafting these players at the RB36, he's not going to be a top 12 running back this year. He could be a top 24 running back, absolutely.
There's a possibility.
But if you draft him as the RB36, that's not as much value as you would get as drafting him in the 11th round as the RB49 and getting that massive value. That's what we're looking for. So if you want to draft him in the 10th round instead of the 11th to try and capitalize, I think that's a great idea. But drafting him in the 8th round and 7th round, that's too early.
And I like talking about this because there's only 32 teams.
There are.
And that he is ranked under 32 means that there is something wrong. It is not him, it is the team.
Yeah, even though I really enjoy him and think he will do good this year, I don't have him ranked higher than some of the backup running backs in the NFL. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. He's a value play late in the draft. You can stash him on your bench for a couple weeks as the Texans sort out their
issues,
their running back room. And then if he's playing well, you can plug him into your lineup, or if you have running back depth, trade him to a manager that needs running backs. But that's the kind of thing you have to look at in your draft. Draft to your team's needs and don't reach on players, even if you have higher expectations for them. I've made that mistake plenty in the past drafts. I'm sure AJ has as well.
No, I am very good at drafting. That is why I am currently in my fantasy football career 4-0. I have never lost. So I
feel like you didn't win the English league last year.
I won that.
Did you?
I did win that.
He did. He's the reigning champion of the English league.
I am the reigning league winner of 2 different leagues. So I am running off of my momentum.
Speaking of the wide receiver room, I'm sure you've got your spreadsheets pulled back up.
Yes.
Brandon Cooks, he is the only draftable player in the receiver room.
Yes.
Without a question.
Yes.
I am higher on him than consensus. He's currently going at 509 as the wide receiver 23.
Yes.
I have him as the wide receiver 11.
I
think
have him
he
as
has
17.
wide receiver 1 potential this year. For the simple fact of he gets underrated every year, he falls in drafts. He'll probably rise up a little bit. He'll probably end up in the middle of the 5th round by the time draft season really gets here. Obviously, just a disclaimer, these ADPs are based on mock drafts because most leagues aren't drafting yet here in July. But I think Brandon Cooks has wide receiver 1 potential.
I think he does too. I think he will rank at the end of the season a top 10 wide receiver.
That's 100% a possibility. I have him going over 1,100 yards. He's going to get the ball a lot, especially in the PPR format. The ball is coming his way. They did draft John Mechie, the rookie from Alabama. He's coming off of an injury.
Yes.
But I think he's there. I think he could great dynasty pickup in a couple of years if they draft a quarterback. If they draft Bryce Young, if they draft somebody like that, John Mechie instantly gains value. But for this season, wide receiver 64 for me, not worth a pickup in redraft.
I think the other 2 Houston wide receivers, John Mechie and Nico Collins, are not worth a pick this year.
I have Nico Collins right towards the bottom of my board of wide receivers.
I have both of them ranked towards the bottom. So.
Neither of them are worth a pickup this year. Just to keep an eye on if John Mechie ends up being a target, if him and Davis Mills have some sort of chemistry that we don't know about, he could end up being a pickup off waivers. Currently going undrafted, you shouldn't draft him either. And then Brevin Jordan, he's been considered a breakout candidate to tight ends down in Houston. Tight end 25, I'm not drafting him. As you can see, this division here is not good at tight ends. I don't think he's worth a pickup. Maybe if you want to stream him, but once again, not worth the draft choice. I'd rather have Austin
I have
Cooper.
him ranked 28th, and he's getting drafted in around 250s.
Yeah, he's not being drafted. He's going currently, I think, undrafted in mock drafts.
But there is potential that he could break out, just talking about how Houston is.
Yep, because if red zone targets, that kind of thing, he goes up. Basically, if you're looking at Houston in your draft, I think it's Damian Pierce or Brandon Cooks. You're not drafting anybody.
Exactly.
Unless you think Marlon Mack wins that backfield, but I don't think either of us have him. I have him at RB60.
Yeah, I have him 55.
Yep, I don't think he's worth the choice
And
at all.
now the defense. Let's just move on.
Yep. Let's go down to Jacksonville, the last team in the AFC South. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence, first overall pick last year, struggled mightily. I don't see much improvement, and I think I'm maybe the Jacksonville, J-A-C-K, hopefully that's enough. Trevor Lawrence, I'm not as high on him as consensus. So he's being drafted as a QB21, and I think he's riding the hype of being that first overall pick.
Yes.
I have him as my QB25, not touching him in drafts. I think, let's see, who do I have him ranked right now?
I have him ranked 18th above Matt Ryan.
Really? I have him ranked 1 behind Matt Ryan, 1 above Carson Wentz.
I have him ranked also above Jameis Winston.
So if you're sitting in your draft, you're taking Trevor Lawrence over Matt Ryan.
Yes.
Why?
I like Trevor Lawrence.
Do you think he's what?
I think Trevor Lawrence just had a very bad rookie season.
that could
I
be.
think that
Absolutely.
he did not live up to the hype.
He didn't.
I believe he will just be a game manager, but game managers do seem to get a lot more fantasy
That's
points.
true. He has the potential. He has the legs. They did surround him with some more offense this year. Travis Etienne returning from the injury.
Yep.
Christian Kirk, they signed in free agency. Marvin Jones signed in free agency. Evan Ingram signed in free agency. They threw around a lot of money to try and help him out. I just don't see him living up to the hype. It's a personal preference, I think.
I just put him
Definitely
higher
not
because
his-
I like his ceiling,
That's of
but
course,
his
ceiling
floor,
is high.
his floor
ceiling
is
is
low and his ceiling is high.
The QB2 is. Now let me ask you this: Trey Lance out of San Francisco taking over the reins as a rookie. Would you rather have Trey Lance or Trevor Lawrence? Because he's another high ceiling, low floor guy.
I actually have Trey Lance ranked 13th.
13th. Wow, I'm gonna have to check my rankings on Trey
I
Lance.
really love Trey
He's
Lance.
all in on Trey Lance. Actually, now that I look at it, I have him as the QB12. So yeah,
We are all in on Trey
Yeah.
Lance.
that'll be another discussion for another day. I didn't
Yes.
realize how good we had Trey Lance ranked, but Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, no. The rookie guys. How about? Nah, I can't even ask you that question. I was gonna say Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson, but I think I know the answer to that question.
Ladies and gentlemen, people of all ages, if you do not take Zach Wilson first overall in your fantasy draft, you're not winning.
I have Trevor Lawrence above Zach Wilson.
I do too. Zach Wilson is very
yeah.
meh.
So he's a flyer guy as your late QB2.
Yeah.
I'm not touching him, but
Yeah.
AJ seems like he might grab him as a QB2 option.
He's not my QB1. I have my QB1 in mind, but he's definitely my QB2.
Yep. If you go to the running back room, you have Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne has had a lot of hype coming in.
I
He
like
was
his hype, and I think the hype is going to live up to it.
You do. The
I do
only
believe-
reason that I'm a little hesitant on him, I have him ranked 24th.
Okay,
So
I
that's
have
RB2.
him 19th.
Yeah, so it's
RB2.
RB2 range. The only reason I'm not higher on him, because I've seen people ranking him as like an RB1 breakout candidate, it's the coaching staff. They have a new coaching staff. Urban Meyer drafted him. Urban Meyer's gone.
He left.
He did leave. He did
When
leave.
did
so-
Urban Meyer leave? See, here's the thing about Jacksonville, right? They do not care about football. They care more about the wrestling aspect. If you watch AEW Wednesday nights on Dynamite, so it is a very, very good show. I would say watch it. But yeah, Jacksonville, the coaching staff terrible. Just their culture is Florida. They are definitely a Florida culture.
And he's currently going in the 4th round, so I'm gonna do a little ADP game with you with him later. But the ceiling I think is capped by James Robinson,
Yes.
the other running back there. He's suffering an injury in camp right now, but they say he's good to go. They also drafted Snoop Connor. I don't have him ranked, but he's they have guys on the roster that this coaching staff enjoys that they could definitely use over, like not over Travis Etienne, but like in a shared role. Travis Etienne, I don't think could be a bell cow back, like a 3 down. He's out there taking all the carries, all the touches. He's a receiving back though,
Yes.
so he has that upside. There will probably be league mates in your league reaching for him though, and I don't think he's worth reaching for. If he falls, he's currently going at the 410. If he falls to the 5th round, you're saying that you need a second running back. Absolutely, he's a great choice. He's a back RB2, but
I do believe with your
he's a risky
statement,
player.
his ceiling is definitely shortened a little bit just
Yes.
because of James Robinson.
Yep, I 100% agree. And now the receiver room here is a little interesting. They did go throw around a lot of money.
They did.
The reason that scares me is they threw around a lot of money to a lot of people. So it's normally you can look at the big contract and say that's going to be the new guy who gets the touches. But with all these guys getting paid, who do you think's getting the touches?
See, here's the thing. I have 4 wide receivers ranked for them. I
I have 4 as well.
have all 4.
Yeah.
So in my rankings, I have Christian Kirk first.
What do you have in that?
I have him 41st.
I have him 42. So yeah,
Okay.
we're right consensus there.
Next, I have Marvin Jones.
Marvin
I have him
Jones.
ranked 70th.
74 here. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Then I have Senalt Jr.
LaVisca Chenault. Yep.
I have him 74th.
Really, I am not as high on LaVisca Chenault. I'm at 98.
I
One of my
just
last
think
wide receivers.
there's just a lot of potential for Trevor to throw the ball.
And they had some chemistry last year.
Yes.
It's just he's the holdover. So while there's the potential that leads to a higher thing,
Yes.
I don't even know why we're discussing this. You're not drafting LaVisca Chenault.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if he finishes as a wide receiver 70, you don't want him on your team.
Yeah.
But looking at it, I don't think he gets it that much. Same thing with Zay Jones. I'm not drafting Zay Jones.
I have him ranked 100th out of 100.
Impressive. Yeah. So Christian Kirk.
I
he's
would
going to
take
10th
Christian
round
Kirk
currently.
as wide receiver 3,
Really?
maybe
your,
2.
your second wide receiver in the 10th round, AJ. No, he's gonna be on your bench. He's not gonna be starting. Think about it. If you're in the 10th rounds, that means you've had 10 picks. You could fill out your starting lineup and flex and be on your bench by then. Even if you did a running back heavy strategy at the start, Christian Kirk should be your 4th or 5th receiver by the 10th round. Because you're gonna want, if we can discuss draft strategy for a second too while we're here. first, second, third, fourth round, you're going to do either 4 wide receiver running backs or 1 tight end if you want to take a Kelsey or something like that.
Yeah, I would probably take a Kelsey 4th round.
Oh, he'll be going in the second for
I think people will overhype running backs and wide receivers.
He's not. I can tell you his ADP right now while we're sitting here thinking about it. He's currently being drafted at the 201.
Yeah,
the first pick of the second round.
Yeah,
anyway, yes. So he's going to be a bench receiver for you, and if you like it, if you want to take a shot on Christian Kirk, you got to
all means
go for it. I have him ranked higher than consensus. Back in the 10th round, you're sitting there and you're like, if you're happy with your wide receivers, you have a top receiver and then some fill guys. If you have a Brandon Cooks, and you got him in the 5th round, you can grab Christian Kirk for a bye week fill or 2, and he could probably. And if he breaks out, he breaks out. But I just don't see the breakout coming.
Yeah. Now looking at their tight end again, this division does not have good tight ends.
No,
Evan Ingram is ranked 22nd.
Don't draft it. I have him at 27. I'm not drafting Evan Ingram. He's currently being drafted in the 14th round, so signed in the last round.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking him.
Basically, everyone under 20, I just threw in.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I'm not drafting Evan Ingram. It terrifies me. I actually sat at him and Laviska Shenault exactly the same numbers. The only people on Jacksonville I'm taking is ETN or Kirk, and I'm hesitant on both of them. They scare me. The ceiling on Kirk is there if he becomes a clear wide receiver 1, but it's just the risk is not worth it for me. When I think we'll go play the ADP game here. So look at the ETN Kirk on the ADP game here. So in the 10th round, at the 10:08, you're looking at players like, let's say I have a wide receiver right by him actually, Jarvis Landry or Christian Kirk. So Jarvis Landry, remember he's in New Orleans now. I'll go ahead and answer this for you. I have Christian Kirk ranked higher.
Oh. I have it the opposite way.
I have Christian Kirk ranked higher.
See, because I have Kirk. Oh, I do have Christian Kirk ranked higher.
So I think I would take Kirk over Jarvis Landry. What about Christian Kirk or Russell Gage, Tampa Bay? And if you remember, Chris Godwin.
I actually have them right next to each other, and I have them at almost the same stats.
So I'm going Russell Gage here because of the Chris Godwin injury.
Yes.
I think he has a higher upside. We'll do one more here. We got my wide receiver 50. Oh, Kadarius Toney for Christian Kirk.
Is this the guy who didn't make any catches?
For the Giants.
Is this a guy who had negative yards in his first ever game?
That is correct. But he also had a game when he went for, I think, 11 catches, 180 yards, and a touchdown against the Cowboys.
What a big thing to do. What a big thing to do. I'm taking Kirk.
You're taking Kirk. I think I am as well. And let's look at Travis Etienne in the 4th round, the 4-10. Going right around him. So would you rather have, we have a running back going right before him, Cam Akers or Travis Etienne? Cam Akers for the Rams.
Yes, Cam Akers for the Rams. I have them ranked right next to each other too, but I would take Cam Akers.
Interesting. So there's the injury risk with Cam Akers.
Yes, there is an injury risk.
Etienne's coming off injury. Both of those guys terrify me in drafts because their upsides are so high, and you're staring it down, and you're like, do I take the risk on them, or do I want to go?
But I would take Cam Akers just because I think Odell left, correct?
Odell did leave. He's always told
That's why I would take him. If Odell was still there, I would take him.
I feel you.
And
Josh Jacobs or Travis Etienne. I think I'm going Josh Jacobs, which terrifies me because I don't think I've ever been happy about drafting Josh Jacobs.
I am never happy about drafting him, which is why I am not going to take him.
So these guys are all sitting in the running back dead zone, where it's guys that could be the running back ones on the team, but they can also end up getting benched for somebody random out of left field.
Like
they could have
Darrell Henderson for me last year.
Yep. And so you gotta be careful with these guys. I try not to draft running backs here. I personally, depending on how the draft falls, obviously if your draft falls a certain way.
Yeah.
Last season I drafted out of the RB dead zone and won my league by going 0 running back. But this year looking at it, these options terrify me. You're looking at all like Clyde Edwards-Helaire's in there, Damian Harris. These guys scare me.
I had such upside for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then I did not take him, and that was probably the best choice.
But if you look at the wide receivers in this range right now, Michael Pittman, Jalen Waddle, Michael Thomas, Terry McLaurin, Brandon Cooks. These are the guys you could be drafting.
I just think the league this year is very stacked fantasy-wise.
It is.
But here's the thing. There are going to be so many injuries this year, in my opinion. I feel like people are going to try too hard to try and get a new contract or just to keep their role.
That's true.
Because coming off of 2022, it was just, who's going to win, who's going to do that. We all know who was going to win.
Yeah.
So.
We're looking at where players are currently getting drafted, that includes our AFC South breakdown, by the way. I think we did pretty well. We're looking at where players getting drafted right now, I'm looking to take running backs in those 2 out of the first 3 rounds.
Yes.
Because those, after the 3rd round ends, James Conner's the last running back in the 3rd round being drafted, and then it's a massive fall off. And you can get guys like J.K. Dobbins, who I'm not really high on, but like Leonard Fournette or Ezekiel Elliott
Exactly.
In the 3rd round. And then obviously your 1st and 2nd round running backs, your Aaron Joneses, your Derrick Henrys, your Jonathan Taylor. Those guys you're going to take. And you can get some high value wide receivers later in your draft, and then come back around for some running backs like Rashad Penny for the Seahawks. When we get to the Seahawks, I'm gonna have a field day talking about him. But
yes.
those kind of guys you can grab later after that RB dead zone, which I think lasts about the 4th, 5th, maybe 6th round is that kind of RB dead zone where you're trying to avoid it, drafting one that you don't want to reach for a running back. If you can get your running backs early, your league mates are going to
never
be
reach for a running back
because your league mates will start reaching in the dead zone and they'll draft guys that they shouldn't be drafting.
Like
too
Clyde
early.
Edwards.
Like Clyde, they'll be reaching. That's why ETN's going so high is because players are reaching for him.
Exactly.
If you were to fall a little bit farther, I would feel way more comfortable drafting him.
And to talk about their defense,
right.
their defense is still just very low.
Yeah.
I have them only ranked above the Raiders, the Lions, and the Falcons.
Alright, who's your pick to win the division this year?
My pick to win the division this year. Well, looking at the division, first of all, I'm going to throw away 2 out of the 4 teams.
Yep.
So now I'm looking at the Colts and the Titans.
Of course.
Titans win the division, Colts make the wild card.
I'm going opposite. I'm going Colts win the division, Titans make the wild card. And bold prediction for the division this year, a player you have a breakout for or somebody busting, something like that. A bold prediction.
My bold prediction is Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence being a QB1?
Potential QB1.
A bold prediction is bold.
Yes.
We're
like a
remember
very last couple of weeks, QB1.
QB1, interesting. I think my bold prediction is Brandon Cooks, wide receiver, in the top 12 wide receivers.
I would also say that as well.
Brandon Cooks. Yep. Alright, thank you very much for tuning into our first episode. If you have any comments you want us to answer, any questions you want us to answer in the next podcast.
Anything we can improve, like the table maybe.
Yep, trades, any trades you send through, we can grade them, that kind of thing. Just leave in the comments. Thank you very much for tuning in. Until next time.